show you in a minute. But when you scroll down on IndieCron, they have yellow text on a white background. It's kind of hard to read, so I would maybe think about getting something a little more contrast. How's this for a title? The first Comicsgate movie when? Jawbreakers the movie. The Death of Comics, The Rise of Comicsgate. Or Alternative Comics. Remember in the 90s when they came out with alternative rock? Just a kind of a promotional idea to sell rock that is really the same as every other rock band on earth. But if it helps get ready to play, go for it. What if some of the Comicsgate guys got together and started building a shared universe like DC and Marvel? If you want crossovers in a future cinematic universe, it's easier when they share a world, and of course crossovers and sharing teams is cross-promotion. If someone likes Jawbreakers, and John Malin includes them in his Werewolf Flat Earth book, John may get a new supporter for his Wolf Melt comics. I know you're thinking, Comicsgate will never have a movie. That is just crazy talk. I'd like to say you heard it here first, but you probably didn't. I'm sure someone else has already thought about it. I know the Renfamous and Mark Waids of the world are working hard to push the narrative that Comicsgate are all right nothings. And that is exactly how Kelly Sue DeConnick talks, I swear. And in the current political climate, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my comics. Hey, Kelly, we aren't. In the current political climate, again, that is exactly what you can find her interview on YouTube. This isn't going to happen, but that's fine because the properties aren't developed enough for that yet. But in 2025, when Trump leaves office, the political climate will change. A Democrat will most likely get elected. The SJWs will finally have won, and people will realize that Trump just wasn't that bad. Maybe Joe Biden will take office. After all, he would only be 80, still a young man, or so the DNC would claim. He's the guy with the bleeding eye, in case you forgot. I think he was in office a few years ago, something, vice president. Why is everyone in politics so damn old? Bernie Sanders looks about 200 years old. Even Trump is old, but at least he can move around without tripping over everything. Hillary Clinton was channeling President Ford. Watch Chevy Chase during his do his Ford impression, his bit on Saturday Night Live. It was before my time, but that was back when Saturday Night Live was funny. I know every generation says Saturday Night Live was better 5 to 10 years ago. They are right, because political correctness has slowly strangled comedy. Stand-up isn't funny when you aren't allowed to punch left as well as right. For proof, see Dave Chappelle. Watch Norm Macdonald's highlights before he was fired. There were no sacred cows, but I digress. In 2025, when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is president, prepare yourself for that horror show, because it's coming. The climate will probably change enough to allow for a Comicsgate movie. How awesome would it be to see Cyberfrog on the big screen? And later on, Cyberfrog adult film parodies. Not my proudest fap. I imagine Ethan Van Sciver will have a starring role as the handsome, yet balding, pudgy 50-year-old leading man. He would be lucky to get a cameo like Kelly Sue DeConnick in Captain Marvel. The time to start setting the stage for these future films is now. Hollywood always wants content, and I admit that it is a huge long shot, but to make a film with Comicsgate characters would be incredibly cheap in terms of royalties. Mike Miller would probably license his stuff pretty cheap. Now that I think about it, if I'm unsure about backing a book, but it was a crossover, say, Brand with Antonio Bryce and Red Rooster with Mitch Breitweiser, I would be more likely to buy it. Or what about a Comicsgate Avengers or X-Men type group? That might help increase sales to a wider audience. Comicsgate is already in the Blacklist universe. They may as well start teaming up. Instead of being individuals on the industry outskirts and selling books, why not form an industry? Nobody has to jump into anything. It's easy to start slowly. Just by doing the team up, another weird idea I have is, okay, is that not going to scroll? Is what if you had two stories simply in one book? I mean, to save on shipping. On one cover, you have one story, then you turn the book over upside down, and you have the second book. It would simplify printing, packing, and shipping. Plus, the marketing would be awesome. You could have both channels doing live streams mentioning the book. Or why don't two teams get their book printed and shipped together? You would save money on shipping and handling. Instead of two individual books for $70 total, you could sell two together and save $10 on shipping, or three for $85. A lot of these small campaigns that are under $10,000 could probably put 3 books together in one massive book and at least get their project out there. It would also allow smaller creators to make connections. If they're willing to gamble on the first book, they could take a smaller profit and at least get the book into people's hands. If it's good, then they will buy the second book. Right now, it feels like there are hundreds of comicsgate creators loosely under the comicsgate umbrella, all moving in the same direction, but not working together. Final point. I heard someone mention, what if there was one place to buy all the comicsgate books, like an Amazon substore or something like that? For the books that go into in-demand shipping, it would make things easier. Probably Indiecron or Indiegogo could do something about that. Or even after your campaign closes, maybe overprint a certain number of books that could be sold from the comicsgate storefront. Just some ideas. Please tell me yours. Oh, and as for Renfamous and Mark Waid, when they die, their cats will eat them. Since they are so full of SJW toxicity, their vile bodies would cause a mutation in the cats, creating a super race of cat SJW hybrid. They will be called SJW pussies. Like, comment, and subscribe.